Oh my goodness, I am here. I am a little late for our 1 o'clock meeting today, but as a lot of you can relate, opened up the application and there needed to be an update, and of course I had to remember a password. So I love LastPass until it doesn't work, and then I can't ever remember any password. So I'm a little late because I had to deal with all of that. So, hello everyone. Happy Friday. Here we are at our 1 o'clock training, and I have so many things for you today that I am not even sure where to focus. So, I'm just going to do my thing and get started for you. And if you have any specific questions, definitely put those in the comments, and we can shift and spin around and talk about a bunch of different things. So, I'm so happy to be here today with you. One of the things that I wanted to tee up for you guys is what does it look like to do a case study? So as you're thinking about building your course, um, or really just sort of defining like who it is that you want to build the course for, who is your perfect avatar, it's really about looking at what's that ideal scenario in terms of how you're helping somebody be successful. So what I wanted to do was model that for you all here in our time together. So I of course was going to try and connect my iPad, which didn't happen. So we'll do that next time. But I do want to jump into a deck so I can kind of sketch some things out for you as we go through this process. So let me get that open. And so while it's opening, one of the key things, whether it's your journey that's kind of brought you to this place where you're going to teach other people how to successfully work through a problem or challenge that they have, or you've been able to help others go through that same framework, the same success path that you have gone through yourself, or you have taken people through, or whatever. It's really important as you're teaching to give people the teaching, the activity, right? We talk about, everything that you do is tied to creating an activity for them so you can put them in action, right? So people need to do whatever it is you want them to do so they can get to the next step, not all the things that they need, that you want to teach them in terms of what they need to know. We focus on what they need to do. So when you are teaching to that activity, giving them the context, giving them the different various things that they need to learn in order to be able to complete that activity, one of the most valuable things you can do is actually give them an example that they can follow along. So sometimes this will come out in being able to provide them with templates, being able to provide them with a specific sort of case that other people that someone has had as they go through the journey. Now again, this could be yours that you're sort of documenting, or this could be somebody else's, or you can make it up. It doesn't really matter. But I want to take you through that process. Of course, my computer is super, super slow, so I am not able to get to a whiteboard. Let me keep trying and see what's happening here. It's just like this whole live is just one big comedy of errors, but that's okay because the point is still going to be made. So once I can get this open, I'm just going to sketch this out for you. All right, it is opening. Okay, so the very first thing to think about is when you are starting to help somebody is really defining like who is it that you're helping and what challenge do they have, right? So as we start to look at that, the very first thing that you're going to do from a case study perspective is to be really, really clear on who it is you're going to help and how you're going to, what are the steps that you're going to use to help them. I promise this is opening. Oh, geez. This is what happens. Come on. It's really trying hard. I do not know what's happening other than the having two applications open at a time is just stressing out my computer. All right, so I will put a graphic underneath this in the comments since I can't seem to get anything to open. But here's the thing. So the very first thing that we do in Learn Academy is really dial in who it is that you're going to serve and how you want to show up for them, right? So when you're looking at who that is, there are a couple different ways to start thinking about that. It's really getting to know that perfect ideal avatar that you want to work with very, very well. So whether this is you're kind of originating what you're doing from something that you've had to solve in your past, or you've worked with somebody, really think about who that is, who they are, how old are they, where are they hanging out, what do they like to do, how do they like to learn, what's important to them, all of those different things, and really dial in like who it is that you are serving as detailed as possible. And one of the things that we talk about a lot is that we actually name this person, right? So or persons, right? So in some cases, I have people who just their avatar are just women. So then you can just have one avatar, Julie or Jane or somebody like that, right? If you have both males and females in your program, if it doesn't really matter, then I would create an avatar for each one. And then you'll kind of see where the overlap is, or maybe where the differences are. Because you're going to use this for marketing messages, but you're also going to use this to have a great understanding of what the problem is you're trying to solve for them, how to take them on this journey, and then how they actually want to go through the journey, right? Because everything that we do from this point forward is to really put ourselves in the shoes of our ideal person that we're trying to help. And the more that you can do that, the more it puts you in a position where you're actually helping them solve the problem, not just going from what your expertise is and trying to teach them everything that you know. Because we know that like knowledge without action actually just doesn't do anything, right? There's no point in learning something or having more knowledge if you're not applying it. So having knowledge is, potential success, but it's not until you apply it which it turns into actual success, right? So we really want to focus on that. So the very first thing is identifying who it is that we want to help, and as much about them as we can. Now, in some cases, you can go through and do this activity just intuitively because you have enough experience working with your ideal person, or imagining what who it is, or if it's based on your story, you can get pretty far in identifying exactly who it is and what their needs are just by kind of doing that activity. In other cases, if you don't know that, you're gonna want to find where these people are hanging out and like learn about them, right? So if you're going into a niche or you're serving people that you're not super sure what their what their thing is, what they're into, how they what motivates them, how they go through their day, do your research, figure that out by going to where they are, either in Facebook or LinkedIn groups or in-person groups, or by just doing some Google searching in terms of who they are and where they're hanging out and what they like to do and all of that. Because all of that will serve you so much when you are trying to attract them to you, right? So that's going to be one of your key things that you're going to do is you need to find the people that you want to serve, and you need to start attracting them to you because they need to know that you exist. You can't have your course, even if it's fabulous and wonderful, sitting on a shelf that nobody can see. So the very first thing is you're going to use this information that you've gathered to find out where they are and how you can start attracting them to you. So for example, my avatar, one of my avatar's names is Jane, and Jane is a 30 to 40-year-old business owner who has built a successful business but is starting to be burnt out and is looking for a different way to grow their business versus like taking on more infrastructure, taking on more staff, taking on just more. There's got to be a different way to do it, right? So they're asking questions around that. So typically they are parents, or they have some other sort of endeavor that is taking them away from that place of like, I can't work all the time. I don't want to work all the time. I want to do other things, right? So that's one of my avatars is Jane. So I can look at it and say, okay, so what does Jane like to do? What kinds of activities does Jane like to do? I could go as far as saying, Jane is, like I said, she's married, she's got kids, she likes to do tons and tons of activities. She's super active, or she's got lots of hobbies, and she's just too busy to want to sit behind her computer all day and fulfill on work, right? Or I can say, she's a single, woman who is living in the city and has, an aspiration to do, to travel all over the world, and again, doesn't want to be chained to her desk, doesn't want to be, working with clients 15 hours a day, right? So there are lots of different kind of ways that I can imagine my ideal person. But what that does is it says, I'm looking for Jane. Jane, come and find me because I can help you solve your problem. And so the more clarity you have on that and the more specific you are on that, the easier it is for them to find you. So that's the very first thing. That's why you're spending time really getting to know your avatar, and defining specifically who it is. And I will tell you, some people say, well, I have lots of avatars. Like, I can help everybody. And the problem with that is that, when you say that, then you don't like draw the right people to you, or easily draw people to you, because they can't identify if they're your person just by looking at your material, right? So sometimes the more specific you can be, the more you're able to draw people to you, and then they want to be a part of your world. So that's part of it. The other part of it is really dialing, like, what is the challenge or problem that they have that you are uniquely qualified to solve. So the more you know that information, the easier it is for you to design the path that will help them solve the problem, right? So the more clarity you have on that particular problem or challenge, the easier it is for you to get them to a result, right? Because people are paying you ultimately to get themselves out of the situation that they're in, right? They have a question, they have a problem, they have a pain, they have something that's causing them to say, I need someone else to provide me with the path, and hopefully the fastest path to getting a different result. That's why they're paying you. That's why they're coming to you to say, help me solve this. You have solved this. You have shown me that you can get people results. Now take me there, right? So the more specific you can get around that challenge, the easier it is to solve that, right? So that's the other reason that we go through that activity of getting to know Jane. Now, what's interesting is what we do in the agency when we're working with a client. We go through this activity and we help them define who their person is, who their learner is that we will literally create find a picture that represents this particular avatar or learner, however, whichever way you want to do it, and we put it on our whiteboard or our bulletin board and say, this is the avatar that we are creating this course for, that we're creating this program for, that we are helping to serve, and we have a picture of them up. So when we're building, we can keep in mind who it is for, so we can always put ourselves in their position. Would this work for them? Would this be something that would help them be successful? If I built this activity, could they do it and then move to the next step? It's always going back to that particular avatar and making sure that everything that we're creating serves them and will get them to that next step. Because, and this is normal, and it's not your fault, but this is what happens when you're an expert, is you're like, I want to give them everything. I want them to have all of the information in my head, and all of it is important. And if I give them everything, then they will succeed. And we know that that's not actually the case, right? We want to give them what they need when they need it so they can succeed, and really learn where they are, not what we want to give them. And so when we keep their picture, and in some cases, like we've created like a life size, um, like cardboard cutout of this person. Like that's how extreme we get in this, because we want to make sure that we keep track of who it is that we are serving, to keep them front of mind during this journey, because it's not easy once you get into the content, once you get into the details, to remember, wait a minute, we just need to get them where they need to go. We don't have to give them all the things. And so that's the second piece, is really keeping in mind what they need when they need it on their journey to get to that result. Then the third thing is really knowing them helps us figure out how to keep them motivated. How do we keep them engaged? How do we keep them motivated? What does that look like? So for example, if my Jane were a younger mom, or a mom that had younger kids, I should say, doesn't matter how old the mom is, who has younger kids, I am not going to schedule my calls around dinner time, right? That would be a disaster, or bedtime, or whatever else, right? So as a mom of 3, I know that if you want my attention, it is not during that time when all my kids are around. So I'm not going to schedule calls at that time. That kind of detail of knowing who it is that I'm serving helps me create an experience where they can succeed. So if I say, well, I'm scheduling all of my calls around their dinner time, then they're not going to be able to succeed, because they're not going to show up, or they're going to show up and they're going to be distracted, right? They're not going to be able to show up at their best. And so knowing those details about that particular person really helps fine tune how we can help them succeed, how we can keep them motivated and engaged and moving forward. So that makes a huge difference when you're doing that. So the first activity around this case study is really building out who it is we're serving, and if you can get to it, what is the big problem that you're solving for them, right? What is that challenge, or that pain, or that reason that they're coming to you to say, help me get to this new answer? Because there's a reason why they're coming to. People don't seek out training or courses just because they have nothing better to do, right? They're coming to you because they have a problem that you have told them that you can solve. So really look at identifying those two things. How much information can you find out about your perfect person, one person, not a million, right? If you have both males and females, then I would do 2 avatars, but they are related. Otherwise, one person with one set of needs. And then the second thing is, like, what's their big problem? What is their big pain that you can help them solve? So those are the 2 big pieces of this first part of the case study. So when I can share my screen, I will show you what this looks like in terms of a case study or example, and what that looks like as you dig into this first step. So there is your training for today. This is a meaty one. So if you do this, I guarantee you'll have so much more clarity on who it is that you serve. All right, there you go. Add your comments below. I want to hear about, either does this resonate with you? Have you done this activity? Or if you do this activity, if you stop this video, do this activity, how much clarity are you getting around who you're helping and what problem you're helping them solve? Because I bet, like, if you can get that clarity, the marketing messages you have, the sales messaging that you have, and the way that you talk to your people will be so much more clear. All right, there you go. Happy Friday.